Order the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission meeting for December 7th, 1995. And welcome you all joining us today. We're here because we want to celebrate the holidays with you. Isn't that right, Mr. Yee? Park. Let me start by noting that this meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Sacramento cable system. Today's meeting is being cablecast live and will be repeated Saturday at noon. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Any member of the audience who wishes to address the Commission on any item on the agenda is welcome to do so and encouraged to do so if you wish. We would ask that in order to do so, you fill out a speaker identification form, and those are located on the table at the rear of the chamber and on the desk table here at the front of the chamber. Once you've filled that out, if you'll hand it forward to the clerk, we'll make sure that you're recognized to speak on the item in which you're interested. When your name is called, please approach the podium, stand directly between the microphones, and when you open your remarks, please give us your name so we have that for the record. With that, why don't we call the roll to establish a quorum?
Cox. Present. Collin. Here. It's been a long time. Collin. Here. Collin.
Yes, here.
Natoli.
Here.
Cone.
Here.
Yee.
Here.
Waters.
Here.
Pratt.
Here.
Dickinson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, why don't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You'll join the Commission. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's play ball.
All right, item 1.
Mr. Chairman, in recommending or structuring your agenda this day, because of some recent events, I suggested that Sacramento Cable Television be first on your agenda and be given an opportunity to update you on several new things from their perspective. So I believe that, Wayne, are you?
All righty, good. Good afternoon, Wayne.
Good afternoon.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you from the employees of Sacramento Cable, 370 strong. They wanted me to extend a happy holiday season to one and all. And, we hope that you have a very, very enjoyable Christmas and New Year's. I have a couple of things I wanted to share with you this morning, or this afternoon rather. Update on our construction project. Share with you some product decisions that have been made and some things that we're still working on. And then some rate adjustment. We wanted to share with you where we are with those thoughts. So I have some overheads, and do I lay this here?
Yes. If you put those there, and the crew in the back will pick up on it in a second.
Okay.
They'll go right along with you.
If they're paying attention to this meeting, they will.
This crew is, Mrs. Cullen. This is.
I promise Parker as well. But as you well know, we are in the process of upgrading our plant to 550 from 450, and this is part of what I'm sad to say is going to be a very long and methodical process. We go from 550 to 750 and on into telephony, and so I think we're going to be in a perpetual state of construction for a number of years here. But as we speak today, our budget calls for us to have at least 130,000 homes passed by the end of the year, and a little over 4,000 plant miles. As we speak today, Hub 0 has been completed, and it includes, as you see, Land Park, downtown and Midtown, East Sacramento, Oak Park, and South Natoma. Hub 1 is in fact completed, and Hub 3 is the final hub site for this first year's construction. That would deliver 130,000 homes passed, and I think a little bit over 88,000 customers will have access to the new products offering. So that's where we are, and I might add, I have been through a number of these things in the past 15 years, And this particular construction project, with the assistance of Rich and some of his thought, we have really, outside of the early parts of the startup phase, has been a very smooth project. The complaints or the concerns that have come from the customers to our office, at least, have been minimal. They have understood what we're trying to accomplish, and some of these notification tactics are as a result of working with Rich and his office and trying to make sure that we're doing everything possible to communicate what's happening out there. And I can only submit to you that the concerns have been far and few between. The construction crews at Sacramento Cable and the contractors that we're working with are well educated about the needs to meet the demands of the marketplace and communicate properly, and that has in fact been done. And I think that we will see during the next year at least of this that it's going to be more of the same. We're going to continue to work very hard in making sure that we have communicated what we're doing out there. It's been very smooth, which is unusual, but it has been a very smooth process, and I think it's something that I hope you will take pride in, because we have tried to do everything in our power to communicate and work with everyone to alleviate any concerns about the construction project. So,
could you tell me, just as a matter of curiosity, what is the whole process for a homeowner? I mean, I can see the notification, etc., but I'm talking about the physical process, because this is the fiber optic, and you have to put, what do you do, put more?
Well, we're out there changing out amplifiers. It's an electronic upgrade.
Oh, okay.
So what you're seeing us do on the distribution plant
so
there,
all right, okay.
That's what it is. I can only share with you, and it's my understanding that we are probably going to be compressing our fiber backbone. We're going to be running down to close to 500 homes per node. And today, we're doing it at 1,700 homes per node. So 96, the later part of 96, early 97, and when you start messing with this fiber, getting it deeper and deeper into the plant, it becomes a little bit more disruptive to the marketplace. And so I think we have some work ahead of us that's going to be a little bit more problematic than this initial phase, but physically it's reasonably benign stuff. They're doing it early in the morning. It has not caused reason for outages or disruption of services to the degrees that the future might. But I think as a result of our efforts here, we will be able to mitigate some of the future problems that we will be having with the advancement of our fiber distribution. So,
yeah, I think for the average homeowner, what they really worry about is just, is it going, in terms of coming into their already existing home, does that mean they've got to have workers coming back into the home? Does it mean that the streets get dug back up? Does it mean that the people who've got the little things in the front, is all of that going to be disturbed? Is landscaping going to be disturbed? Those are the things they usually ask about, more so than is the service going to be interrupted? Are you going to be back in my house? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah. I'd like to suggest that we won't be digging up things, but we will. The need to get into people's homes is not going to be required, but the continuation of the fiber and the two-way activity that we will be moving forward to in the next 24 months is going to be much more disruptive than what we have initially seen, and the consumer will, in fact.
And the streets?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So all those streets again?
Well, I'm not sure of how many miles of underground construction we're dealing with, but let's see here, but I don't want to alarm anyone that this is going to be a massive amounts of chaos, but
Okay.
yeah, it's underground. It's 30 miles of underground is, well, that's not the whole construction. That's just the 550. So in short form, we are going to be digging up streets. We are going to be in easements, and we are going to be moving power supplies around.
And that's all being coordinated, though, I hope, through the Public Works Departments, because at the same time we have a very aggressive maintenance and construction program going forward in both the unincorporated area as well as the cities. And so no doubt want to really coordinate. Nobody likes to have all their new pavement torn back up.
I don't, absolutely. I'm one of them. I wouldn't want that happening to my residents as well. But please take, I mean, what's happened so far wouldn't be happening if we weren't coordinating with the other utility companies and all that. We have a very strong working relationship with them, and we do not make moves without them being advised. And I can, at another time, will share with you examples of where that relationship, that communication, has mitigated huge problems.
Yeah.
So we're doing everything in our power, like I said, to make sure this runs as smoothly as possible. But I want the marketplace to be advised. This is the advancement of technology. It has to happen. And unfortunately, it's just going to take us several years to get it completed. It's not dissimilar to the consumer having to deal with road widenings and freeway improvements. It's basically electronic highway here that is being built, and it's going to take us a while to get it done. But we're on top of our game thanks to the help of the Cable Commission and their support and communication, and the staff at Sacramento Cable being very responsive. So I hope you'll be pleased.
And eventually this will service the whole service area on some sort of schedule. I don't know if we've seen that whole schedule yet. But
We have the schedule, and you've seen pieces of it here for the upgrade to the 550. As Wayne said, that's been 30 miles of underground, relatively negligible. The access to front yards and backyards has been to put new electronics in the existing equipment. If I've got it right, the fiber now goes to, when they're done, on average half mile away from individual homes. That has to come down to hundreds of yards. So the next phase will have more to do and more impact. So that, as you're saying, we'll then step in, rely on some of the same construction practices and coordinations we did when the system was built. One advantage we have now is that the underground construction was done in conduit, and hopefully the construction technology exists that the street may be blocked, but may not have to be dug up in every case. The cable can be pulled out and new equipment pulled through. There are going to be times when it's going to be kinked. There are going to be times when they will have to dig to repair that. We don't have enough feel yet, the probabilities of those. That part of it hasn't been done before, but that's my anticipation, that we'll look at those type of alternatives, and Public Works will, to minimize the noise, dust, inconvenience that we went through 10 years ago. That's why the cable and conduit construction technology was specified early on.
in terms of the first build, when we did have a schedule of, you know, which areas were going to be served when, I think that's also what I'm trying to drive toward is, you know, every area is going to want eventually to have services and know that, you know, on some sort of schedule when that's going to happen. So I assume we have some.
We have been working with Rich relative to what our plans are. We still have some work to do about the launching of these new services in the rebuilt area. And we'll be getting back with his group within the next month or so and laying out specifically the timetables for this stuff. But the original construction plan was to have this done by at least the middle of 1997. A large percentage of it would be completed by the end of 96. But then there's a second phase to it, which is a upgrade from 550 to the 750, which is big business. Big business.
Any other questions, Ms. Collins? Mr. Waters.
I'm confused, Wayne. You talk about Hub Zero. Been completed, and one's next week, and then 30 miles out underground is next week. And I hear you say 96 and 97. Let's use Hub Zero as an example. You've done something there, right?
Correct.
You're not at 750. You're only at 550.
No, it's set up. The spacing is for 750. We have prepared it for 750. But it's not 750. It's 550 gear. There's 12 incremental channels that will be available as a result of the
550 that's completed is an upgrade from what we knew 6 months ago or a year ago, right?
Exactly.
Well, how come you didn't do 750 right off the bat?
It's a hybrid system based on the advancement of technology about distributing this stuff. That's the issue. We don't want to move too fast because technology keeps changing on us 1 month to the next. And this was the way of doing it. It's able to do it cheaper and at the same time prepare yourself for the advancements in the the technology.
So is it fair to say that end of next week or the end of this year, that within 100, whether your last two bullets there, underground and overhead, will be completed by the end of 95 at the 550 level?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you'll just start all over and bring
And
it
we'll have to come back and start messing with a few more things.
Okay.
The backbone, the architecture has to be
That's where I was confused why you
modified
had
a
to
little
pull it
bit.
twice.
But
Okay.
it's really complex. We're getting off into areas that it's a learning experience for all entities involved. It's not proven technology yet, but this video compression, which is of most concern to me, because as you're well aware, the DBS provider has 150 channels. I have to get there to be competitive. And this is it's unique stuff right now, and the whole industry is having to sort of pace itself a little bit to make sure.
Thank you.
Relative to the programming additions, as we were able to squeeze out a few more channels out of the existing 450 plant, I think you have seen and read about the HBO2, which is available to all HBO customers, and we have added ESPN2 to our expanded basic level of service. The response has been quite good. New products that will come with the completion of these upgrades and the approval of the Cable Commission and whatnot. We're still evaluating what products to add. We have a short list now of things we want to do. The only one that I can tell you that is definitive is going to be the History Channel. I think this market will in fact have the History. I was waiting for you to come back. I promise, right? But that'll be there.
A lot of us are waiting for that.
But we have, there is a tremendous array of boutique services that are now making itself available. I mean, there are over 50 brand new channels that we have to choose from. And we make sure that our consumers and customers have an opportunity to participate in the selection process. And we have research now back based on their needs and what appetites they're looking for. So it's going to be very exciting, and we'll have one of the best channel lineups in the country, I promise you, when this is all said and done. So we're looking forward to that. Now on the rate adjustment front, we have submitted to Rich for his review. I don't know if I can turn the lights down a little bit so you can see. And this comes off of a Form 1250, which is what we have to submit for your approval. The top part is where we are today. The FCC, now Kevin, who is our FCC guru, may, if you have specific questions, may be able to be a little bit more articulate than I am, but the government has allowed us to recapture certain things and pass things through. And what you see is a reconciliation of those increases. And from the Econo Basic to the February 1 rate, you're looking at something around 3.1% increase. But those increases are made up of external cost, inflation adjustment going back from 94 through 95, and then the adding of certain channels that they have given us what Rich may be able to share with you is a going forward rules which allow us to recapture some of the cost associated with adding product. And that's what we're doing there. So the net is about 3.1% increase. The CPS level of service outside of programming additions is about a 5.8% increase. The overall without programming additions is about a 4.5% increase. Relative about a 42-cent per channel. And I think when it's all said and done next year and the other area cable operators take advantage of their capabilities, you'll find that we still are not a price leader relative to programming cost or services. I think as our last rate adjustment we shared with you, we rank about 3 or 4 with area cable operators in terms of the total cost of basic programming. So we have no desire to be a price leader. We have a desire to provide the highest quality service at the lowest possible cost. And I think
that is a leader.
Well, that's the leading position I'd like to have. So that's kind of where we are. It still has to be evaluated, and I think Rich has his eyes on it, and we'll be meeting with him early part of next year.
Mr. Chairman, how many channels does the Economy Basic go through?
I think it's about 26.
So it's 1 through 26?
27.
Approximately. There's a couple of skips in there, but I believe it's 27 channels.
And I'm just interested in the upper level.
Yes, 27, and it's close to the top 27 channels on the numbered dial with one spillover, as I recall.
All right, thank you.
And that's
The lowest
available
possible rate.
without a converter.
That's correct. Those
Is there
are available.
another rate
possible
lower than
rate.
that?
No, there's not. The Economy Basic is the entry, is what's called the basic service tier under the regulations in the system.
I can't put anything in front of Economy Basic either. I can't
What do you get
have
for
it.
$23 in the next upgrade?
The $23, or the next step up, gives you the Economy Basic and what Sacramento Cable calls their full basic service, and brings you to 52
Yeah.
non-premium channels. 52? Excuse me, 57.
57, yeah.
57, yeah, because we've got full basics.
So that's basically my story, and I'm sticking to it. So,
You're going to say a few words about something called Comcast?
well, yes. Since we last spoke, a lot has happened on that particular front.
Additional spending.
I knew very little about Comcast. They're a very low-profile organization, but as the past weeks have allowed me, I have been able to meet with their senior-most officials, and I'm very excited. I hope the community will be excited. This is one-class organization that's taken over this cable system, assuming that it's approved. But they're very good people. Their record within other communities is very high. They have a strong sense of community involvement. They have very strong management disciplines. And I think, from my standpoint, this is the best of all worlds. From the future standpoint, and I think Rich had a taste of a little bit of it when he was at the Western Show. He chatted with Brian Roberts, the president of Comcast, was on one of the panels. I think we're beginning to read, even today in the USA Today, there was an article about Comcast, what it's doing with some of these high-speed modems and test marketing. I have already sent off letters to their multimedia people to let them know that Sacramento, assuming that the merger goes through, should be a test bed. So we're gaining a partner in high technology, and one that is very skilled in that arena. So it's I think the future bodes well. They're going to create revenues for this community, find jobs for people, and put us on what is the fast track of the info highway. And so we're all very excited. I'm excited. They have requested for my presence to stay, which was gratifying to me. I love Sacramento.
Well, that's good.
And so I have every intentions of being part of the future. And I look forward to continue working with everyone. And but I hope, and in the near future, you will have a chance, as you all know, we're trying to arrange meetings and have people start putting faces with Comcast. So probably after the first of the year, we will be able to accomplish that feat, and you will be able to see for yourself the type of quality we're dealing with here. But it's something I think we could all be very proud of.
Mr. Cohn?
Yes. Do you anticipate any change in the fiber optic installation schedule based on the Comcast involvement, or?
I have limited knowledge on what their intent. As I understand the management agreement, this rebuild is basically a Scripps Howard's project. We have to complete the project. I do anticipate a compression or a speeding up of the project. Comcast is much more aggressive about going to 750, getting into telephony business. And so I think what you'll see, probably once it's over with, and they have an opportunity to participate in the construction project, you will see an advancement, a speeding up of things, which is good news to everybody. But we're not going to be stopping anything. This thing is going to continue on, and I think there will be no slowdown. If anything, it will be speeded up, done quicker, sooner. and that should benefit all. So,
Thank you.
I think one of the concerns that naturally arises when people see a transfer is the prospect of increased rates as a new owner tries to recapture some of that purchase price. Can you comment at all on that?
Other than our rates are pretty much controlled by what we can do with the FCC outside of the local basic channel, which you have complete authority over. The FCC has controlled us relative to expanded basic, and it is pretty well defined what we can do, what Comcast can do, or anyone can do. And based on yesterday's Wall Street Journal article about the continuing on with a regulated industry here for the next 3 years is probably true. And so there's not going to be an opportunity to get it back into the period of where you were seeing, in some cases, inappropriate rate adjustments. That's all framed up pretty tightly. And so you're not going to see anything that's abnormal, whether it's us, Comcast, or anyone else.
Is the open end of that system, of course, is the premium channels and pay for
Clearly, those are the optional services, and I think you're going to see a lot of different dynamics take place in that arena. You'll be seeing more screens for the same price. You'll get HBO, for an example, if whatever the retail $9.95, you get 2 screens. I think you'll start to see for $9.95 or $10.95, you'll see multiple screens. It won't be just HBO. It could be HBO 3, 4, 5. In some of our new product offerings, we're bringing in commercial-free movies as well, which are optional services. These new services we'll be adding are a la carte. Consumers can pick and choose. And by the end of the upgrade, we should have at least 10 or 12 a la carte services where the consumer can go right from Econo Basic and start picking the boutiques or the niche programming that they are most interested in, and will not have to buy through the expanded levels, which is very exciting. I mean, that's choice, and that's what it's all about. And so it's going to be an improved world from a consumer standpoint, at least dealing with a cable operator. So.
But it sounds as though, if, at least from part of your comments, that some of that choice may be, instead of just getting HBO now for just pick a figure, $10, which isn't the going rate exactly, but that it could be you get HBO 1 and 2, but it's $15.
No, it'll be right now. You can buy HBO for $9.95, and you get HBO 2, so you get 2 screens for the price of 1.
You don't foresee that changing then?
If anything, I'm going to start adding screens. I have to add value. And that movie business is very competitive. I mean, Blockbuster is rolling those titles out at $1.99. My pay-per-view business, if I don't get titles sooner. So our strategy is to add value wherever we can. Very similar to what the automobile industry is doing. They're packing, they call you value priced. And I think that's what you're going to see us, because we're in the retail business, and you'll see us start doing the same thing.
You've made reference also to Comcast being more aggressive in the area of telephony. And as systems change, and I suppose this is somewhat dependent on what emerges, if anything, at the national level in terms of legislation, but would you foresee potentially, and I think you said you would, upgrading this system to handle telephony as well as cable? And then, if that's the case, will we be confident that cable subscribers don't end up paying for turning this system into a telephone system as well?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism to assure that doesn't happen. I'm positive that someone will make sure it doesn't happen, but there's not going to be any cross-subsidy here. Relative to Comcast telephony desires, I have not spoken to anyone within the organization that has not brought up their commitment to the telephone business. So they seem to have, it seems to be very intense about it. Their experience in Europe has been quite good. They have the wherewithal to do it. They have now the knowledge, the experience, and they don't seem to be backing down one bit. The high-speed modems, which on to the delivery of data and interactivity, is another area that they are very keenly focused on. Among the cable operators, there have been, of these new high-speed modems, 300,000 have been ordered. Comcast has ordered 150 of the 300,000, and they're going to allocate that 150 throughout their systems as beta sites. And that's what I was referring to when I have already communicated to Comcast that Sacramento should be on that list, assuming the merger goes through. So it's exciting times. Now, how all of this is going to weave itself and how do we protect the consumer from cross-subsidy issues, I trust that will take place. And Rich may have a better insight on what the parameters will be. But to this point, I just want to get there and have electronic goods and services made available to these homes in this marketplace.
And I think at this point what we're mostly interested in doing is trying to identify issues that may become critical, so that rather than getting to the point where you're in the midst of something, we say, oh, by the way, we can talk about those things up front, and you'll know how to approach us, so we can have a conversation about
Well, hopefully Comcast can probably be a little bit more articulate, but as they process this 394 form, which is the transfer, that's what triggers the transfer, they have to make some disclaimers. They will be in here to present themselves to you, and hopefully we'll have enough lead time. It takes about 120 days, as I understand it, if all goes well, just to get this thing done. And in that window of time, I hope we will, in fact, ask the questions that need to be asked and get the security we need to have so that we can get through this thing in an expeditious fashion. So,
I had one other question, switching gears slightly, and that's much more mundane. Can you explain, or can you find out for me, why certain channels have vertical breakup from time to time? ESPN, for example, does this for a matter of seconds.
I can't answer that right now. I don't know if you're in an area that we are messing with from a construction standpoint that might be caused.
It's been long standing.
Has it?
It's not recent. Although
okay, well, I want to make sure, one, it's not. It is, in fact, something from a distribution standpoint. If it's something we're receiving, we'll have to check, but I can't answer that. But I will, in fact, look into that.
Get a new TV, Raj.
You got to get you a color television.
That's the only channel he watches is ESPN.
They have color now?
I would like to make one other comment. I need to share with you, and I think Rich can back this up. We're working very hard to be a good service organization at Sacramento Cable. And I know in the past we have had concerns about our phone answering skills, and there was some concern about staffing reductions and scheduling of people and getting everything done. I can only suggest that at least from October, I think, and I hope Rich will concur, that we have been on top of our program out there. We take over 200,000 phone calls, 5,000 a day on average. We are in queue. We're doing our job. That's with electronic answering and with automated answering and without it. We've got our program together. Not to suggest we don't have problems every day, but taking out the anomalies, the things that create a spike in volume. The staff at Sacramento Cable, Ruth Blank, Esther Priestley, people that manage that business office, are doing a wonderful job, and they're able to do it because the other departments, your service group, your installation group, are doing their jobs. So we're beginning to see teamwork, communication, and things that make it easier for consumers to do business with our organization. We're collapsing departments where we don't have to send a truck back out to someone's house if they can't do the job. I mean, with these multiple truck rolls, we're doing everything we can to be a one-stop shop service bureau. And as a result of some of the activities we've been engaged in over the past year, we're on the right track. And I hope that your constituency might share that occasionally with you. I know sometimes people want to talk about the negative stuff, but there's a lot of positive things happening, and I hope that you'll be proud of what we're trying to accomplish out there.
Great. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Oh, one moment, Wayne. Mr. Waters.
Your letter to Rich of October 9th regarding the telephone system?
Correct.
I checked you out at 1:35 today. 927-4500. 5 rings, they answered it. 927-3300. 3 rings, they answered it. And the negative side, 927-1700. A minute and a half, and then I got a busy signal. So that's 2 out of 3. That's not bad.
Well, we're trying. I appreciate you taking the time.
You are really trying to develop
You
the
guys are
system
tough.
there.
Can I ask a question too?
No.
Yes, please.
Miss Collins.
I just wanted to speculate about how far into the future might it be before we can have the type of service that will spare us from having to go to video stores, and where you have a menu that
Absolutely.
you can say, and tonight I want to watch Fried Green Tomatoes, or I want to watch Apollo 13, and now I've got a block of time where I can sit and do that, and is there some menu for doing that?
I wish I could tell you a specific time. I think before the turn of the millennium, that will in fact be available to you. But that's critical right there. In order for me to penetrate the VCR market, my television has to respond like you have to be able to stop, go to the refrigerator, get your Coca-Cola, come back and sit down. That's on its way. Unfortunately, it's going to require a converter box. Which I know is a problem for some TV households.
I hope it isn't really big.
I'm sorry?
Not a big converter.
Well, these things are turning into computers, is what they're literally turning into. And I hope miniaturization continues, but I've got a feeling that square footage on top of the television is critical. And we're going to have more of those boxes deployed. Now, whether or not they will be inside the TV or outside the home, I'm not sure at this point in time, but I'd be willing to bet Sacramento residents in some volume will have access to VCR-like services with an array of movie options to choose from.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that are really frustrated with video stores. In terms of having to go through there, then the films aren't there, or trying to search through it. All the time you're bombarded by all this.
Precisely. I can show you research where people walk into a video store and aren't able to get the title they want, and there is some frustration. That's why video on demand is obviously a medium of choice, but it's just the ability to give you the selection options and then the ability to manage it as you watch it. And that's on the horizon. But I think we're still several years away.
I agree with Wayne, but he's speaking for the cable television industry. There's some people and think that you might be watching those video-on-demand movies
on those computers.
Sooner.
That is such a little screen.
Big screens.
Oh, big screen computers.
Big screens, about that thick.
Right. Okay.
Things are changing.
2001 will end for today. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you all
very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
This is item 2 we've transitioned to.
Right.
And we have a resolution in connection with that.
Quickly, Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, members. We haven't had a need to meet in the last couple of months, so I have several administrative items to cover for you. Some of these surfaced in the last 24 hours, especially those dealing with some information Sac Cable brought to me on issues that Wayne just discovered. Wayne took it from the marketing standpoint. I'll have to take it from the regulatory standpoint. But I have 3 areas for you today: administrative issues, some programming issues, and some rate issues. And as I see it now, only one action item. Administratively, before you is the 3-year audit prepared by the county auditor. There are no remarkable findings, but we're required to present it to you, and it's there. Advising you that I made a staff decision, a management decision, that we're changing the depreciation schedules in our financials. The auditor advises it's not something that requires your action. I'm just letting you know that we've had a very wide depreciation schedule. I'm making it now more typical of IRS rules, an 8-year straight line schedule. On our programming side, and I'll give the staff a second to key up, with the suggestions of the chair and with the new equipment that we were budgeted for this year, we're making some changes on Metro Cable 14. We've done some studies, some watching, and beginning today, this is the first time it's been done. If you look on your monitors now, you should see it. We're going to begin an annotation on the screens similar to similar to C-SPAN. Some other stations, other broadcasters do that, but within some rules that we're developing now operationally, when there's an item before you, and to begin, it'll only be coming out of this chamber, that the equipment isn't in the city yet. When there's a discussion that goes for more than 5 minutes, we will key up, make an interpretation of what the item is in a objective format, and provide the viewer with a reference which says the board is considering, and some more information other than what the item actually is. This is something that the chair asked for. We've been testing it on board meetings for the last 3 or 4 weeks, so you may have seen it. So from here on out, it works. Staff-wise, we'll evaluate in about 3 or 4 weeks and fine-tune any changes that we may necessarily have to do. Separately, or in addition to this, the new equipment allows us to run a crawl at the end of a meeting. So we're going to try and build now continuity between one meeting and the next, and the crawl should be coming up here for you shortly, so that we will say at the conclusion of the board meeting, we will be cable casting the city council meeting in progress, or the SAFCA meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So we'll use the new equipment in this way to better promote the channel.
There's the crawl.
There's the crawl. You are seeing today the live feed, that is the feed which is going out on the cable system. Normally from your dais, you see only the internal room feed. So you won't see it in a normal meeting when you're sitting here. We had to switch things around so you wouldn't today. So while you're here, if you don't see it, don't be concerned. The viewer on the live, the viewer is seeing it. And of course, the little live insignia doesn't show up on the videotapes that play, only on the live cablecast. That's what I have for you for programming. 3 or 4 things to talk about on the regulatory side, and following on what Wayne presented. Yesterday, Sacramento Cable provided me with a draft rate increase adjustment form with their intent to have the new rates take effect on February 1st. They're required to do a 30-day advance notice, which would mean we've got to put the notice out at the end of December. The form provides for, and the FCC regulations provide for, adjustments right now on a quarterly basis. There's some new forms coming out that will be changing that to an annual basis. Things like increases in programming costs, increases in as a result of new programming added to the system, and you heard that the system added ESPN2, and CPI adjustments automatically pass through under the FCC's regulations. On a prior occasion, and actually on 2 occasions now, there have been rate adjustments which we have reviewed and have recommended no action on your part. Because we received this in draft yesterday, the final numbers aren't there. I've already faxed to our consultant. Bottom line, if there are no conflicts with the regulations as prescribed, I won't come back to you before the end of the year. I will continue to work with Sacramento Cable if there were. Bottom line is that we will work with Sacramento Cable to put a disclosure out before the end of December. These rates will go into effect February 1st. The rates we're looking at, as you saw, look like $1.47 to $1.50, the combined economy basic and basic total. There will be, I understand the numbers haven't been agreed to yet, but there will be increases in some of the Sacramento Cable value pack packages and increases in premiums, or some increases as premiums as well. But as of last night when we spoke, the decisions hadn't been made within their corporate structure. So that's the rate increase issue. For us, as I said to you before, the FCC's and the rate regulation package that came to us in 1992 was moderate at best. These pass-throughs in some cases are new. The cable industry has done a very good job in making their points through the FCC. I will provide you with a staff report that, with the best that I can do with counsel and our outside consultant, that Sacramento Cable's rates are no more, no less than the law provides for, and we'll do that between now and the end of the month. Second issue, one that just caught your attention because you may have heard it from your constituents. The cable industry and Sacramento Cable have begun a very aggressive program on theft of service. We've had 2 complaints now from citizens who have been targeted by Sacramento Cable. They feel wrongly. I have some concerns that the process used with these people has some need for oversight. The concern is that both these families have said they've been harassed by the cable company's lawyers. So I referred the issue to counsel. We started to look at it from a regulatory standpoint. In my mind, that's triggered another step, and that is that I'm going to go back in and look at the customer service regulations in their entirety and come back to you with any recommended changes. We were one of the first jurisdictions in the country to move forward with customer service regulations. We did this in 1990, and they've been pretty much unchanged since then, so it's time to have an overall look. So January, February, this issue and whatever else we may have, I'll bring back to you for in more depth. Wayne mentioned, and it's one that we will be dealing with next month, and I believe it leads towards good public policy. But as you saw, the company's electronics now have been upgraded to a higher level of service. The issue that they've approached staff on it, and we've talked with council, is what is your policy relative to allowing that to be activated? Your ordinance has very strict language, as does state law, on a concept called universal service. And there are concerns that we would have a disparity of service within the franchise area. So I'll be working with Sacramento Cable over the next several weeks and bring to you, probably at your January meeting, a plan which would allow them to activate services on a incremental basis, and that we address the issue of universal service over a reasoned time period than universal service all at once. I look at it that why should the capacity be out there for subscribers to have additional channels, and we have to wait until the entire system is completed? From Sacramento Cable's perspective, that there's a lot of logistics involved, or would be, in turning everybody on at once. It also gives them an opportunity to shake things down. Our concerns are that if we waver from the policy of absolute universal service, that there are adequate controls in place to be sure that at some point in time everybody gets the service. So next month we'll be looking at steps to work through the universal service policy. To me, the criteria include a socioeconomic balance, that the cable company not choose certain areas of the franchise, certain areas of our county, and say we go here and not here on an arbitrary basis, that we have a balance. I want some assurances that if there is some reason, whatever the reason may be, that the upgrade isn't completed, that you are not faced with the issue of having to order the cable company to pull services away from subscribers who have become accustomed to those services. We want the promise to be on the cable company side to finish the upgrade and complete it, and we get some schedule certain on those issues. I believe the motivation is there. I'm just concerned with the policy implications.
Yeah, Rich, that was exactly why I asked for when we were going to see a schedule, because
right.
During the first bill, that was a really important consideration, yes. And we really held the cable company to it, and that's what I was really trying to get at, was when are we going to see that table, and when are we going to understand when everyone's going to get the service?
And I will draw on the policies that you created during the initial construction. The initial construction, for those of you who weren't here, was completed by a census tract progression on low, medium, and high socioeconomic areas, and I believe that precedent applies here, and we bring that same criteria into play. Between now and next month, we'll analyze that and come back with a methodology. Next update, and this is as of this noontime yesterday in Washington. The Conference Committee on the Telecom Conference Bills met formally and approved 33 staff recommendations. Unfortunately, they approved the staff recommendations in summary. We don't have the language yet, but I downloaded the summary. Several of the issues are favorable to us. Some we're uncertain on. One, I can tell you that California continues to be effective in letters that many of you have signed, letters that we've arranged for many other elected officials to sign to our elected folks. Outside of the cable arena, but an important local government issue is the one on cellular tower preemption. And you might be pleased to note that the mandatory negotiated rulemaking, basically a minor preemption of local authority, or I should say a major preemption of local authority, has now been changed. According to the summary, the new language is cellular towers shall be placed going through the local process. Approval may not be unreasonably withheld. So that looks like there's been some positive movement from our perspective. I will say, though, that this is only in the federal bill. The cellular industry, this is just an aside, it isn't a cable issue directly, but the cellular industry has a motion before the PUC that would, in California, put into effect most of the language the industry is trying to get at the national level. And so I've advised or passed information on to my counterparts in your other departments. But the industry very much wants local government preemption for placement of cellular towers.
Rich, on that point, you're saying that the PUC is considering a proposal that where licensing by the PUC would preempt local licensing within California?
GO 195A, Mr. Cohn, it's on a fast track. The settlement is pending now. It lays out a series of goals for local government to meet. One of the goals is unnecessary delay, and if that were to be found or alleged by a cellular provider, then authority to authorize a tower could be preempted or pulled to the PUC. It's fast tracked. The League of Cities, Association of Counties have asked for a series of hearings on this. It's moved very, very quickly in the industry's behalf. 159A is the GO. Nothing yet on right-of-way issues out of the conference. So that is still an open issue, an open item. So today I can say I have nothing new for you or to say any more about your decision in September to distribute $2 million of your reserve. Everything I said then still applies. We have no decision. As Wayne mentioned, one of the items was that it appears that there's been an agreement on rate deregulation for the cable industry to March of, where we continue the existing practice until March of 99. And that's what we know as of now on the Federal Telecom Conference. Questions on that one? I'll close on that there's a strong feeling that because the issue of long distance by regional Bell operating companies did not surface in the discussions yesterday, that's still an open item. The feeling from our Washington folks I spoke to this morning is that if that doesn't get resolved very quickly, that the probability that the bill will die is high, as at least 50-50. That without that it may not make it, and that's not resolved. What I'd like to do now is lead you to our action item and talk a little bit more about the transfer and a bit more about Comcast.
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask if you could go into the detail about the theft of the signal.
Surely.
And what your thoughts are relative to the theft of the signal.
The cable industry is pursuing theft of service at two levels. One, they've been very aggressive with makers of and distributors of illegal boxes. That is the manufacturers, producers. Separately, there have been actions done to identify people who are using illegal boxes in the marketplace. I believe we support that, or we have, in no way do we condone theft of service. That isn't something that we support. In these cases, in these two cases, these individuals alleged to, by the cable company's assessment, these individuals had met the criteria for having tampered with the boxes. In both cases, they received letters, and as they described, not my words but their words, harassing phone calls from the cable company's attorney at home. They were not represented by counsel. They came to us for help. I think they've written to you as well. In one case, I went to Wayne and said, I've got this complaint. Wayne and the staff, would you check it out? And they went back in and reevaluated the evidence that they had and decided that it did not support pursuing the issue, and they dropped it. This was one of your constituents, I believe, Mr. Cox, that the stress on him, the process that followed, I believe we need to look into. I've talked with counsel, and from my own experience, an individual facing a collection action outside of cable television would not be subject to the level of contact or harassment by a collector that we seem to have seen here. Some of the issues that
Is there a role here for the Cable Commission?
There may or may not be. I'm telling you, I'm watching it. We've had 2 instances now. There are certainly some issues of customer service and process that I believe could be appropriate here. And at this point, I haven't gone through the full depth, but we have had policies of prior notification of these issues. And one of the things I think would be important, that if the cable company is considering a legal action against an individual, it would seem reasonable to me that a letter from the cable company in advance of having a lawyer call you at home might be appropriate. Secondly, I'm concerned that the decisions, in this one example, that the information provided to the individual was incomplete, or at least that the evidence that had been acquired against him or that family wasn't provided.
When we begin to insert ourselves into the middle of this discussion, do we in any way take on any contingent liability?
I don't believe so. First, just to clarify, we're not talking about any criminal proceedings. I mean, to the extent that Sacramento Cable believes they have evidence which they want to give to the district attorney and try to convince the district attorney to initiate a criminal action, we're not talking about that at all. These are attempts by Sacramento Cable to collect civil damages for what they believe to be theft of service. So we use the word theft, but we're talking about a civil action. And what Rich and I have been talking about is really just, at least to date, is to put some procedures in place that would that would help not really level the playing field, but to make sure that before a subscriber gets threatening letters from an attorney where they're, just sitting in a house with no legal representation and getting a letter that says, under California law, you owe us $5,000, give us a check in 10 days or, we're going to go to court, that there be some kind of procedure or some kind of mediation or some ability for them to try to deal with the situation without first going, having to hire a lawyer and going directly to court.
Is it your intention to bring that procedure to this board to ratify?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. We've just been trying to, between the two of us, try to figure out what we might want to recommend if we're going to recommend anything, and I think Rich is just trying to give you a heads up as to the types of things we've been thinking about. I just wanted to know how far along we were on the development of the process. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
One question, clarification. Is this a past due bill, or is this presumed that somebody's got a black box and they're working on, and that's what they're going after $5,000 for? What is
right. The allegation by the company with some variations is that for whatever reason your box is returned to the company and it appears that it has been tampered with. And that's where the process starts.
I see.
In the first case, the evidence that the box appeared to have been tampered with was upon reinspection by Sacramento Cable at our office's request. They found dozens of boxes with the same indicators that would indicate that the problem didn't occur in the subscriber home. It happened somewhere in the manufacturing process. The result on the impact on the subscriber, though, was significant in terms of their stress levels. I wanted now to briefly take you through some things about the transfer process, and I would welcome the opportunity to give you a big tech overview of all the new and exciting things that are happening. I did go to the cable show last week. I did get to meet face-to-face with Brian Roberts and his father, the chairman of the board. They are, as Wayne said, very sharp, upfront business people. A certain rapport was there immediately. These things I know, and the staff has a chart that they'll bring up along. These things I know. One, Comcast is a communications company, not a publishing company, and so as Wayne suggested, I think we can safely assume that telephony, other services are likely to happen. You do have authority under the federal law, and more importantly under your own ordinance, to approve the transfer of control from Scripps Howard to Comcast. That's quite clear. The federal language provides for a 120-day time frame upon which you have to complete. Your language says your approval would not be unreasonably withheld. In '92, the federal law came over the top and put some process requirements in. But you do have authority, and if you recall, we went through a somewhat minor version of this last year when Scripps Broadcasting was assumed by the EW Scripps Company. The process, the 120 days, is triggered by a filing to us, on Form 394. It's the FCC prescribed form. I have it here to look at for you. If that is acceptable meets adequate completion levels according to council, that starts your 120 days. The third point is limited scope. I should say specific scope. There will be findings that you will have to make or that we will present to you that are somewhat complex. Recognize that you have an amended and restated franchising ordinance, which has application here, an amended and restated licensing ordinance, an amended and restated franchise resolution, as well as federal regulations, all governing the issues and the factors upon which you will hopefully eventually grant a transfer of control. So it's limited scope by what is specified in those documents, but that is not severely limited. Next screen, please. These are the things I believe to be true, subject to change as we go through the process. I believe that the goals of Comcast, their business plan, go into other services well beyond cable television. It's a communications company. What I believe Wayne is describing of fiber optic deployment will make the engineering and the architecture of the system look more like a network in the end than a cable television distribution system, which is primarily one way. I do believe, based on the financials and the aggressiveness and other things I've learned about Comcast, that they will move more quickly than the plan Scripps-Howard has had in place. I think I can tell you, and I had faxed to you the night that we heard of the announcement, Comcast wasn't one of the players, so we moved quickly to get up to speed on what Comcast is. Comcast operates telephone and cable television businesses in Europe and England. Comcast is one of the participants in PCS, Personal Communication Systems. So this is a much broader focused company than we're used to. So additional services on the cable system, including telephony, I believe, are a very safe assumption. We all want a smooth transfer. This is not a renegotiation of the franchise. It should go fairly straightforward. There are some prescriptions and specifics we need to go through, but I hope for you that we're not going, and hope for staff as well, we're not going back to what we did in 1982-83. I believe as a result of the transfer, as a result of the FCC pass-throughs and all the other things that are happening as the rate regulation issues have watered down, that rates will rise. Some rates may not. Wayne is vice president of marketing, and Comcast even has some additional marketing ideas that I've read about. But the game here is to get additional revenues from subscribers. Comcast paid top dollar for the Scripps systems. The Sacramento system is the crown of the Scripps system. So if Comcast paid approximately $2,000 per subscriber for the entire Scripps systems, that says that the Sacramento systems would be high overall in the average, because that was an average number. To recoup an investment like that, it takes cash flow. The Goldman Sachs report I have before me says that we can expect, or stockholders investing in Comcast could expect them to aggressively pursue increased cash flow. So I think we will see a change in rates. Not all the rates, some will go up, some will go down, but with the addition of additional services, with more aggressive marketing, the buyer, the transferee has to meet its goals. I think we'll see some things on our side as well. Last point on this chart is that FCC regulations have limits under the Federal Act on anti-trafficking. I believe they apply here, and unless Scripps and Comcast come to us with a lot of openers or conditions in this transfer, I don't see where the system could be transferred again within 3 years. That's the idea that the Congress tried to take brokering and bartering out of the cable television process. As the chair indicated before, there are some concerns that as you trade up and make these trades, the cost basis and the cost analysis become passed through to subscribers. So I believe that to be true. Last slide, please. The things I don't know, and we'll see. One are changes. In the 394 process, Scripps-Howard speaking for Comcast, and then Comcast within it, and I expect the paperwork to be quite thick, will be what changes in the franchise, what clarifications in the franchise, and I emphasize, if any, they will want. I believe or would expect that there might not be any at all. On the other hand, there are some things that are unique about Sacramento. There may be some things that upon review, a fresh army of attorneys have questions about. So we'll watch and see what those are. That's where we have to do our job and bring those issues to you if there are any. I would offer though that if there are, maybe the belief that this is not a negotiation would change. I don't know if that will happen or not. I can tell you from other systems that I've talked to, not necessarily Comcast transfers, there's a history in this industry of we want everything smooth, we want everything easy, no problems, and on the 119th day they say, yeah, but just this one little thing. So we as staff will be watching for that. Lastly is the when. I don't know when the when will be. There is clearly a sizable bit of negotiation to go on between Scripps-Howard and Comcast. Scripps gets a seat on the Comcast board. This is a major stock transaction. We are one of many, many systems. There are, FTC and security and all those other entities involved. I don't believe we're going to see a Form 394 before the end of the year, and without knowing for sure, it could very easily be into February, March, April before we trigger the process. For you, I hope that we can conserve your time and energies with some of the other routine matters we have for the Cable Commission. We may need to bring some focus to this issue when 394 is processed. I'm recommending now that we for the sake of this 120-day, and in the event that schedules are such that we need to move expeditiously, I'm recommending that you approve a resolution where, upon advice of council, that we have an adequate 394, and in discussion with the chair, if necessary, we could call a special meeting between our regular scheduled meetings. I can also advise you that, or tell you that, to the extent that we have routine administrative matters that of moderate import, that I can communicate to you in memo form, and thereby freeing your schedules to cancel a meeting or two between now and when we need to focus on the transfer. I will try and do that for you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. So the item specifically before us is the resolution regarding the transfer. You have that in front of you. We also have a couple people who wish to address the commission on this item, which is expanded from 1 to 3. So, Penny Manson. Penny, you want to come up? And I'm going to put you on the clock, Penny, all right?
I don't know if I can handle that kind of stress. Penny Manson, Board Member and Chief Financial Officer of SECC. My purpose in speaking with you on this item is to relay to you a message from the SECC Board of Directors. This is when the brass fanfare is supposed to happen, but due to budget constraints, just imagine it. Our board is enthusiastic about Comcast's interest in Sacramento. We are familiar with Comcast's reputation and interested in furthering opportunities for communications via the cable system. We encourage you, the Cable Commission, to remember the history of community programming here in Sacramento. This is when the soft music underscores, again, just imagine it. As a leader in the community programming, we have a strong interest and a desire to expand our role. Our vision includes using the cable system interactively for educational purposes and as an on-ramp to the superhighway. It was a major blow to the education community when the InNet promised by Scripps Howard was negotiated away in 1987. It is SECC's desire that as we go through the transfer, opportunities for Sacramento be strengthened, and that all community programmers be actively involved with you in this process. Thank you. 2 minutes. Hey, I still have time left over. We just had the fanfare and everything.
Great.
No, you don't.
Oh.
Thanks, Penny. All right, Ron Cooper.
She raises a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. We heard the Battle Hymn of the Republic at the end, too, Penny.
Oh, good. That's just how I imagine.
Now, this is just on item 2, Ron.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Ron Cooper, Executive Director of Access Sacramento, and I speak today on the issue of the public hearing, and it is extremely important, and I want to also agree with the statements of the ED Consortium. The Board of Directors of Access Sacramento was very interested in what we would term, I believe, community building, and the continuation of the community building that we've enjoyed in Sacramento City and County for 10 years now, and that this transaction is a huge transaction. This is $500 million. And the idea of a public hearing, I mean, I watch Metro 14 as the board and as the city council and the Folsom and Galt debate freeway interchanges, right? Ad nauseum. This is a huge changeover. And if there are opportunities, and I've talked with Mr. Esposto on the phone, I realize that a lot will depend upon how Comcast approaches this transition. Whether or not they assume we'll just take it as is, and then on the 119th day surprise everybody. Those who've been around for a while, we understand that process. But I think it's extremely important, and I can't remember which American sage it was, former President Bush or Dana Carvey, that said it's the vision thing. And I want to bring that to mind. Mr. Val brought the visions of consumer glories of purchasing wonderful channels and services, and Mr. Spasto is talking about the regulatory environment and the critical issues of there. And so I'd like to also speak to the issue of community building and the continuation of that the organizations that were envisioned 12, 13 years ago that exist today, and the successes that we've been able to achieve, not only continue, but expand in this new era of communication, building via new technologies. And before you, I've passed out at this opportunity a copy of our newsletter for you to have, but also in that effort of vision, in the vision thing and community building, there is an article, and it's actually a series on the second page of the blue viewfinder, Society, Cyberspace, and the Future. How can new interactive communication technology enhance harmonious and functional communities at all scales worldwide? Do we have music for that too? I think that's good. But it's a series of articles authored by the Aspen Press about the tremendous changes that are going on in communities worldwide and the struggle to ensure that all the citizenry, not depending on how rich you are and how many cable channels you can afford, but this as a communications technology that should be available to all and to empower all voices. The second document, just in conclusion, is a document that we just mailed out, and I'm proud to say has been received by over 600 nonprofit organizations, which is a continuation of just these kinds of efforts. We're not waiting for Comcast. We are, with our homepage, the Sacramento.org project, and working with the Community Services Planning Council and Nonprofit Resource Center, making sure that community-based organizations and the individuals and citizens that they represent are a part of this process. So we welcome the idea of a public hearing, and we also invite the broadest possible participation in these days ahead.
Thanks, Ron. We'll certainly want that.
Let's be clear that we would do it anyhow, but the public hearing is required by your ordinance. There isn't something that we have an option about. What this resolution is before you now is the process of scheduling that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The item before us is the resolution. Is there any discussion on the resolution? If not, is there a motion?
Second. I thought I heard him move it.
Moved by Mr. Cohn, seconded by Ms. Collins. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion is agreed to. Resolution is adopted. All right. And I would just say I'm glad to see that I've seen you experimenting with these descriptions. And I
You like that, do you?
Yeah. Well, what
When they describe what you're doing is follow wrong.
They don't know what it means. And if they do, they can't spell it. What people were commenting to me was they'd tune in and watch the city council or the board of supervisors, but they couldn't always tell what we were talking about, oddly enough. Of course, we can't always tell what we're talking about, so there's not much surprise there. But the little explanation hopefully will help people understand what it is that's going on even when we don't. Okay. I think we've reached item 4. You want to read that?
Grantee status reports.
Now, Penny, did you want to come back and say anything further? Okay. Yeah, that's right. You got 2 minutes. And we are on a clock. We're going to start losing members before too long, so.
I'm still Penny Manson. I'm still board member and chief financial officer of SECC. Our annual reports we do in October, and since this is our first opportunity to address you, we'd like to take a few minutes and review our 1994-95 report with you. You have a copy of SECC's report and 10-year overview in front of you. If the church will just open your hymnals to page 5, you will note on the executive summary that SECC had 13,130 hours of local originated non-repeat video programming for the year 94-95. We had a total of 17,472 hours of total video programming. The number of program hours has not increased from the previous year because there are only so many hours in a year. SECC programmed its 2 channels 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. If you'll turn to page 7, Money, 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 and review our budget summary. In October, we submitted our audited financial statement to your staff, and the bottom line is SECC remained within its budget and generated more revenue than budgeted. And as indicated on the page 7 chart, SECC members continue to provide the majority of financial and in-kind support. Now on page 9, In the programming section, note the comparison chart of program hours for 1985 and 10 years later, 1995. SECC has shown incredible growth. We've grown like a weed. That isn't a song, but it should be. Please take time to review our report. During the past 10 years, SECC has provided a solid track record of educational service to Sacramento. The reality far exceeds the dream of the educational community in the early 1980s before the cable build in Sacramento. SECC is very excited about its role in the coming years and looks forward to exploring better ways to serve Sacramento. We view the current transition of cable companies as a golden opportunity to expand community programming. We seek your support in our efforts, and we count on your vision and leadership and wonderful imagination, so I can hear the battle hymn going behind me, to make Sacramento a leader in the communication era. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Brief, and informative, and lively.
Question? Well, I try and get off because I know you're on the time.
I wonder why, Mr. Chairman, Access Sacramento and SECC don't get together and publish a program guide together?
Single guide?
I thought they did at one time, but now it's SECC and Channel 7.
We're working with KVIE.
Yeah.
Right. They're working with Channel 7.
And that's the agreement that we have with them.
It doesn't address the issue of the scale of the economy. I just wonder, do they print these in the newspaper, or the programming guide in the newspaper, the Sunday section? I've never used one of those, so I'm just asking the question.
No, the Sunday guide carries KVIE too, but does not. I'm not sure it carries
KVIE. I've never.
Is there any scale of economy in putting these together?
Well, I think that we're going to be changing the way that we print it with KVIE, aren't we, relatively soon, because of the economics involved. So it's certainly. I'm sorry, it's certainly something to consider.
Going to have 3 now?
No, I don't think that that's the intention, is to have a third one.
I just raised the issue, Mr. Chairman. Just wonder why.
Well, we have both Liz and Ron here. Do you want to, either one of you want to comment?
Well, they don't have to respond now. Maybe they can just think about it. I just wonder why, if there's not some sort of economic,
Some way we can do it and save those trees?
It's not trees I was thinking about, was money.
That too.
The feasibility of publishing one comprehensive guide for grantees programming.
We'll look into it and see what we can come up with.
Okay. All right. Maybe you can give us your thoughts next meeting.
That'd be fine.
All right. Okay, Ron, do you want to say something else on just your grantee status report? I hate to rush you to, but I think we're going to start losing members.
Sure. Where's the party? Ron Cooper, again, Access Sacramento Executive Director, and on behalf of the board and the staff and members of Access Sacramento, we'd like to wish each of you a happy holiday.
Thank you.
Same to you, by the way.
And we appreciate that. Thank you. What's being passed out now is a piece of our ongoing effort to always ascertain how we're doing, not only in our community, but relative to other communities. So I just pass that information on to you. This is a survey that's done quarterly called the Community Programming Index, and there are participant organizations lumped together in terms of their budgets and the size of their cable subscriber systems. And we consistently rank with the others of like size, and in some areas excel. And once again this quarter, which I'm bringing to your attention there, we excel in the areas of total first-run programming by access organizations of similar size, and in fact in some cases much larger than Access Sacramento, and also all first-run program. Also again, this is the best of those 9 cities measured. Some of those channels also are a combination public and education and or government channels as well. So a great deal of productivity continuing. And I wanted to also bring to your attention that the Sacramento.org, the official Sacramento homepage, continues to grow and expand, and that document that I passed out before, we have been alerted that as a participant in the Net at Two Rivers grant, some of you may be familiar with that, the fiscal agent is the Sacramento County Office of Education. It's an organization of many different organizations We have been a participant and moving in this direction now for actually 2 or 3 years, and we're glad to see that Net at Two Rivers project, hopefully keeping our fingers crossed, everything looks good, being funded. And with our portion of that funds, again focusing on the city county of Sacramento, provision of multiple platform computers in key locations throughout the city, certainly accessible to county residents as well, to help in the training of adult literacy, and those platforms also being able to provide additional access to the internet, additional training on access to the internet, and is just another example of the kind of leadership that we're providing in the community, and why it's so important in this transition to another company to insist that those requirements, to the degree which they are requirements, but certainly to evaluate Comcast, I think, based on that commitment to the community and that continued growth. And if there are no questions, I'd like to just take a minute to show a video. We're very proud of a program that was on last night on our Livewire show, an extended 1-hour program on the Sacramento Youth Symphony. And an upcoming concert was videotaped and will be seen upcoming on our holiday reel. And just excerpt a slight, I think it's a 1.5-minute segment of that concert for your information.
Okay. So stay there.
This was actually a part of the program last night that was demonstrating the practice sessions of the young people and in working with the Ferris Ballet Troupe.
We actually saw the river that the pieces about, and it's just really inspiring.
Entire performance, I think, is an hour and a half long, and as soon as we schedule it, but I believe it's going to be over the holidays.
Great.
That will.
That would be wonderful. He shaved his mustache off.
He did, yes.
He did.
His
Michael, I
his
didn't
official
realize.
bio photographed as a...
Right.
Are there questions for Ron?
Thanks for the call, by the way, to tell us it was on. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I'll let you know
very
once it actually is scheduled in terms of the performance. It was a
We're very proud of them because they took first place in Vienna, and I think the whole community is extremely proud of the Youth Symphony. So it's
They're
great.
fabulous. Coming back to the quarterly report for just a moment.
Sure.
This is the category is those access operations with budgets of over $400,000, and there are 9 in that category. Is that nationwide?
This is a subscription service. So these are those organizations that literally challenge themselves to be a participant. We submit our quarterly figures and we receive quarterly reports back. So let's not assume that there are only 9
I was going to
such
say,
organizations.
I couldn't believe that there would only be 9 in that category nationwide.
That's right. And no, this is a subscription service of those who participate, yes.
Do you have any idea how you would rate when you compare all access operations with budgets in a comparable within comparable parameters to Access Sacramento?
I try to stay very active in terms of the national organization, the Alliance for Community Media, and addressing the organizations particularly that focus on public access. The names that you see there, the 9 that you see, are considered national leaders. I am not aware of other organizations that are anywhere near as prolific. Now, there very well could be. For example, I noticed Portland isn't on there, and I know in the past Multnomah County has been very prolific, but I think it's safe to say that certainly we're right there with the leaders, and that's the role that we've played and desire to continue to play. And one other, I'm sorry, Mr. Cox left, but in the efforts regarding the the monthly newsletter and the combination of that, and in fact we did, as organizations, have a combo with all of the groups. From Access Sacramento's point of view, the viewfinder, the newsletter, the schedule became a piece of our membership services to members. And what we found was that there was an ever-increasing number of people who wished to receive the free guide from all of the organizations. With 235,000 potential households, there was a real question for us, and continues to be a question in terms of providing that as a totally free service. And so there was, I think, a decision made, certainly on the part of Access Sacramento, and each organization had to look at how it served the constituencies that we serve. And that was a decision from Access Sacramento's point of view to serve it as a membership service, to provide the viewfinder and the cable guide in that way. Certainly we can revisit that issue, but it was trying to address the ever-increasing circulation of all three organizations.
Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Ron has his you have yours on a monthly basis.
Yes.
And I think the others do. The only thing that I regret is that, when you're trying to look at uniquely local materials, that none of our newspapers, the B does go ahead and put in, the KVIE now, the channel, the second channel, down in the regular listings, but they certainly don't with the education and with access. And I think that, since these are published on a monthly basis, you'd think at least they would do that. I recognize that they're running ads more than they're running stories even, but it would seem that that would be a tremendous public service that they could do, because you can't find this information anywhere. You just have to go through, you have to channel surf to find a lot of that. But I think it would be a really good public service, but as far as I know, they've not agreed to do that. The only thing they agreed to do was to carry the second KVIE.
Yeah. I'll share with you, members of the commission, the exchange of letters that Access Sacramento had with the B, because we were actually dropped out of the grid. We were in the grid, but then dropped when the additional channels, not this latest offering, but the last grouping of additional channels were offered. And so, yes, absolutely agree with you in terms of the desire to do that. One note, Channel 2 on the preview guide, all of the community channels are always there.
Yes.
And also on our home interactive television pages on the cable channels during the overnight, you can, as a cable subscriber, go in and find, using your phone, find the days of the month and the scheduling for that days of the month. And as an extension of the home interactive television, the internet homepage that we have also updates. Now, understand that not everyone has internet access, but our schedules are on the internet as well. So we're trying to stay current, but it always comes back to those printing expenses, those bulk mail expenses, and how to address that in terms of an ever-increasing number of folks. But we can certainly revisit that and see if there are economies of scale.
Well, I'm thinking about the Encore section that they put out. They put those out 4 times a month, and one of them, you'd think that they would be able to, show the community, because a lot of what they put in the Encore relates to cultural and theater, etc. And this would be one other thing, since Access is covering a lot of those. And the Education Channel must have also tried many times to get the B to publish things.
Well, I'm hoping that the B is listening to your comments today.
Yeah, I hope so. Watching it. Thank you, Ron. All right. Do we have any members of the public who wish to address the commission on items not on the agenda? If not, we are adjourned. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Hanukkah, have a great holiday.
Merry Christmas, everyone.